Welcome to the Bourbon Van. I'm Phil.
I'm Julie, and this is 5 Ryes we think you should try.
Okay, a couple of ground rules before we get started. Number 1, these are not our favorite rye whiskeys. Number 2, these are not readily available rye whiskeys. And number 3, just to make sure, we're going to double down on rule number 2, these are not readily available whiskeys. One bottle was shipped to us as a gift. So nice. And one bottle Julie bought me for Christmas. She did find it locally. But the other 3 were found in our travels, and we're going to get started right now with bottle number 1, which comes to us from Pennsylvania, of all places. It's Dad's hat.
I like hats.
Who doesn't like hats? And this is a very nice looking bottle, very nice looking hat, and even in the glass it's etched with a little hat there.
We found this particular bottle in a bodega store in Chicago. Had never seen it before.
Actually, 2 of the bottles on this list came from that store. We were there with our friend JT, and he introduced us to this place, and he said sometimes the prices are a little wonky, but there's some interesting stuff there, and he was not wrong. There was some great stuff there. And this bottle here, we'd heard about it a lot. We didn't know what to expect, and it wasn't until after I bought it that I looked at the side of it and said, aged a minimum of 6 months, which you don't have high hopes for a bottle like that. And
Gotta start somewhere.
Absolutely. And what did we think about this bottle when we first opened it up?
Didn't really care for it all that much.
What we found is the more we got into it here, after we had a couple of ounces out of it, the oxygen really did it some good, and this bottle became something special.
This bottle is way more flavorful now than it was at first. It's unlike any rye that we currently have on the shelf. It's it's very spicy, but yet has kind of a sweet overtone to it.
Yeah, right. It starts with this intense rye spice up front, and then this sort of cherry juice shows up, and then this caramel slides in on your palate near the finish. But the overarching flavor here is the rye grain, especially on the finish.
It's herbal, it's grassy, it's a little farmy.
We're looking forward to trying some higher proof stuff, some more well-aged stuff. We saw bottles down the road. It's available in Oregon now, and they have it aged 8 months.
Nice.
I need to know what that extra 2 months is doing, so hopefully we'll find out. I haven't seen anything higher than 90 proof yet, but we'll keep our eyes open. I think the only thing that I don't like about this Dad's Hat whiskey is that the price we got it for was $47. You can see right there, $46.99. It actually says it on the back. I think that price-wise, I'm not crazy about it, but it is an interesting whiskey. And by the way, it's what I'm sipping on right now. I'm getting bitter chocolate, jalapeno notes.
I like it.
There's some interesting stuff happening in this bottle. It is very different.
We don't talk about this next brand very often, but boy howdy was Phil excited when he saw this one.
Boy howdy indeed. This one's gonna definitely surprise some of you to see on our list because we have not necessarily been Knob Creek rye fans in the past, but this one is something special, and this might be the hardest to find bottle on our list at this point. My understanding is that this is a 2018 limited edition exclusive and might be really hard to find. Now, where we discovered it was in that same bodega style store in Chicago. MSRP on this bottle, at least what we found on the internet, $45. We got it for $40.
Guess they were trying to get rid of it.
I guess so. Well, they found a sucker. And I honestly wasn't sure what to expect with this bottle. I'd heard good things about it online, but Knob Creek Rye has never been my favorite. It's huge, it's bombastic, it's really loud flavors for a 100 proof whiskey. This one is the anti-knob.
I would agree with that. The nuttiness that you're expecting to find in any of them, the ryes, the bourbons, it doesn't really matter, is always forefront and almost a little overpowering for me. It took a while for the nuttiness to actually show up. I mean, like, I was done sipping it, and then 3 minutes later I was like, ah, there it is.
This bottle, I think, is sophisticated, it's subtle. It is the type of bottle, if you're going to have a flight of whiskeys in a night, start with this bottle.
Yeah.
Because it is so subtle. This is sweet, creamy vanilla, dark, rich, sort of musty oak, which definitely hits my palate perfectly. Some gentle black licorice, soft brown leather on the finish, and this sweet, beautiful caramel throughout the sip.
I'm in.
It's really all the flavors that we kind of gravitate toward, and it's the most unexpected group of flavors to find in a bottle of Knob Creek.
We have this on the list not because we expect you to be able to find it, but we were just at a whiskey bar and we saw this on the menu. Couldn't pass it up, and it's delicious, and we think you should try it.
Absolutely. If you see this one on a menu somewhere and you haven't had it, definitely check it out. And what did I write down here? I want to share this. Drink this one first if you're doing a flight, or you might miss all of the subtle delights.
Like it. Now it's time for me to get excited. I liked this one from the first sip.
We both did, honestly. And this is the, I believe, one and only bottle that we have on our shelf from Ohio. This is Middle West Spirits Dark Pumpernickel Rye. And another bottle that we got on the road. This one actually was a discontinued special. The store was going to stop carrying it. We got this bottle for $35. I saw
Steal.
it. Yeah, absolutely. I saw it as high as $56 during our travels, but this is such an interesting whiskey and totally unexpected flavors here. Really interesting mash bill here, but the star of the show is that dark pumpernickel rye. It's unlike anything we've ever tasted.
And I love pumpernickel bread, so I was not disappointed in this. Sweet vanilla frosting.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little cinnamon mixed in.
That frosting's almost creamy. The mouthfeel is creamy.
It's really good. This one, I think, could be, you could find out there at some places. If you stumble upon it,
Yeah.
just give it a try for me.
Yeah. It's the Julie Special. This is one that we actually saw quite a bit up and down along the Mississippi River area, north and south there. So if you're in the Midwest, or Middle West as they say, you might find this one a little more readily. By the way, the finish of this one, chai tea, velvety mouthfeel throughout, just a crazy unique experience. It's a little bit pricey, but if you find this one, for Julie's sake, give it a try.
We're leaving Ohio and we're heading to Maryland.
Who else could you find there but Sagamore Spirit? And this bottle here, we actually just recently got. This was a gift to us from the distillery, actually, which doesn't happen to us very often. So thank you, Sagamore Spirit. That's awesome. We actually had a different bottle of theirs on our list, which we'll talk about momentarily. And then we got to try this one. Again, this is a bottle that you're not going to find on many shelves out there. I don't even know if this is still the version of it that's being sold, but this one is just so interesting to me that it had to be on this list.
So the distillate in this bottle is actually MGP.
Absolutely, and that is then given 11 months in, I'm gonna read this because I can never memorize this stuff, ex-bourbon turned ale casks, which is busy. It was bourbon casks, then the beer was aged in it, and then this rye was aged in it. So the casks are contributing a ton of flavor to this one. And what they say about it is our 4-year-old blend of straight rye whiskeys spent an additional 11 months in ex-bourbon turned ale beer barrels, creating a spirit that is herbaceous on the palate.
Oh, I love fancy words. That was fancy. So I will say all of that barreling does show up in this drink. The first time I tried it, I thought, ooh, it's a little bit barrel-like. It tasted a little bit woodsy.
Yeah.
But along with that, there's a lot of orange peel. There's maybe some sage in there.
There's something very herbaceous about it. They're not wrong there. The prevailing sweetness is more of a honey sweetness, which balances really nicely with that. I could see this being an absolutely remarkable whiskey for your Thanksgiving setting, something that time of year. This whiskey blew me away. We were going to include the Sagamore Spirit Double Oak, which has been one of my favorite bottles for the past couple of months. So this one is even more unique than the Double Oak, but if you don't see this bottle, and there's pretty good chance that you won't, get the Double Oak instead. You won't be disappointed.
It's a nice consolation prize.
Totally.
So this is a pricey gale to end the list with.
And it was a gift from you to me.
It was a gift.
Merry Christmas to me. And we're going north of the border for this one. It is Found North, which is a blend of some cool things, mostly Canadian whiskey. We'll talk a little bit about it, but Julie bought me this bottle this Christmas. It is a 57.1% or 114.2 proof, aged 16 years, is what they put on the label by Red Hook Distillers. Stats on this one: origin Canada, matured in Hungarian oak, and it's batch number 1.
I like those stats.
I don't know anything about Hungarian oak, but I was really excited when I saw this bottle. First off, it is lovely to look at.
I almost just said, before we get started, the bottle, guys, it's fantastic.
And this bottle, honestly, the whiskey in here is really unique, and we will give some tasting notes and talk about it in a second. Up until we got this bottle, easily the most interesting Canadian whiskey that we'd ever had was Whistle Pig's Boss Hog, the Samurai Scientist, which is up there on the shelf, and costs almost 4 times as much as this bottle. And this bottle costed us $130.
Right.
So
what's going on, Canada?
That is saying something, but we love high proof Canadian whiskeys, Alberta Premium, etc. But this is one of those rare ones that we found locally that is just so tasty. And by the way, it's one of the few wax tops that I actually like.
Oh, and I was going to say I didn't like that.
Perfect. Let's get down to what Found North says about this bottle, and this is a quote. We started with herbaceous, there's that word again. 16-year-old rye aged in Hungarian oak. We blended in fruit-forward 17-year-old rye aged in ex-Speyside Scotch casks. The combination revealed a smoldering symphony of spice. Last, we lengthened the finish and increased the viscosity by adding double-distilled corn whiskey aged for 20 years in refill and level 2 char virgin oak. That's complicated.
There's a lot going on there.
It's a lot going on there. So yeah, you see 16 years on the label,
Yeah.
but what's actually going into this is considerably older than that in some respects. So interesting bottle and interesting flavor profile.
This bottle has candied orange peel, heaps of lemon,
Tons.
chocolate, vanilla.
And that's just kind of the nose and the surface of
Yeah.
it, because beyond that you get this beautiful grassiness from the rye. You get a butterscotch rye that's absolutely fantastic, but the rye spice itself is the thing that prevails, and that comes through on the finish. The finish, honestly, rye spice and this pile of butterscotch, it's like you just got this pocket full of Werthers and you can't stop eating them. That's the feeling that I get when I'm drinking this whiskey. It is absolutely fantastic. We haven't even had that much of it, and already it's left an impression. It is really, really unique stuff.
On top of all those delicious notes, it has a really great finish that just goes on and on.
It has a clingy mouthfeel, and
Yeah.
that finish sort of shifts gears over and over. There's cocoa powder on there, which is such a lovely way to finish just about any drink. It's super interesting. This isn't just an interesting rye or Canadian whiskey or anything like that. It's really one of the more interesting whiskeys that I've ever tasted of any variety.
Well, there you have it. You might not be able to find them on shelf, but if you do see them, you should just give them a try.
Absolutely. Every single one of those whiskeys is super interesting, super unique. They're not the cheapest bottles. They're not readily available in any respect. But if you see them, give them a shot. And what are some ryes that we didn't mention that are super weird, super unique, worth the money, worth checking out? Let us know in the comments. And from wherever we are,
To wherever you are.
cheers.
Cheers.
Which one was this? It's super weird.
That's the pumpernickel.